Hello, and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Steve, and since my earlier video this week, I have reviewed the Chelsea vs Wolves fixture. And so today's discussion is largely going to be around my thoughts on Chelsea, specifically around replacements for Nkunku. However, having said that though, I am looking at some mistakes in my squad and I'm seriously considering taking a hit this week, or potentially even wildcarding. Now we do have a little bit to get through, but before we jump into it, remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, especially if you get any value out of the following content. And as always, I've put the various timestamps below so that you can jump through to the sections that interest you the most. Right, so for my first video this week, I did say I was going to drop a video on Nkunku replacements. And this is that video, but in researching the replacements for Nkunku, it has got me seriously considering what I'm going to do with my squad. So I have sat down to watch the Chelsea demolition of Wolves at Molineux. Now, I was specifically watching this to see what personnel Maresca used in his his dual system, I suppose, which is a 3-2-4-1 in possession and pretty much a 4-2-3-1 when they do not have the ball. And I was trying to figure out who might be the best set of replacements for Nkunku now that he is probably destined for the bench. Now, the reason that most managers put Nkunku into their squads at the start of the season is Chelsea's fixtures, from an attacking perspective, are very good. So they are currently fifth on my fixture ticker here, with across the next 6 game weeks, highlighted by the orange at the top. They have Crystal Palace at home, Bournemouth away, West Ham away, Brighton at home, and then Nottingham Forest at home before it does get a little bit more tricky for Chelsea. Now, first of all, Chelsea and Wolves put on one of the most entertaining games of football that I have seen in a very long time. It was open and expansive with the players on both sides playing with freedom, pulling off crowd-pleasing tricks. There was lots of end-to-end football with quick counter-attacks, and neither team took their foot off the pedal for the entire match. Now, what I have gathered from this game is that Chelsea are going to score goals. Lots of goals. I think the best set of replacements for Nkunku probably still exist within the Chelsea camp. Now, I know buying into Chelsea is risky because they are a team that are still settling. They have a lot of players to choose from and a brand new manager who we are still trying to figure out who he thinks are his preferred first choice starters. However, if we can nail down the most likely starters for the front four players, there is potentially an FPL goldmine at Chelsea, as some of these assets are incredibly kindly priced. Now, the Wolves fixture had some key recent purchases being introduced into the side. Now, first of all, Pedro Neto, who did actually get a run out at the end of the game last week, but he was actually brought on in this game at halftime for Mudryk to take on his former club. Now, this was just a straight swap at halftime that didn't adjust the formation at all. So Neto just came on playing left wing where Mudryk was playing. There was no other changes in squad. However, João Felix, who is a recent purchase, was also given a short run of 22 minutes plus stoppage time at the end of the game. And this is where we got glimpses of what I think will probably be the eventual first team formation. Now, I'm just going to read out a couple of notes from that match for when João Felix came on at the 68-minute mark. And it says, Jackson off for João Felix. So Jackson was playing up front and they brought João Felix on. My first thought was, is João Felix playing the 9? Did they buy him as the first choice over Jackson? Now, last year, Jackson had a bit of a mixed match season. He was not very clinical early on in the season. He did seem to pick up as the season progressed. I did tag him as someone who maybe didn't keep his head in the best moments, and he definitely let some goals go that he shouldn't have. And so I think everyone was thinking that Nkunku was probably bought last year in order to play that number 9 position. But it now looks like that Nkunku is out of the picture. And so I was kind of wondering if João Felix had been brought in to replace Jackson. And then my notes go on to say, actually, no. João Felix is playing in the 10, and Palmer has gone up front. Now, at the 80-minute mark, there was a João Felix goal with a Pedro Neto assist. And my notes just say, great flowing attack by Chelsea. Palmer drops deep from the 9 and sets Neto off with a very quick pass as Neto has made a great run down the line. Neto receives the ball, gets his head up and picks out João Felix arriving on the penalty spot. João Felix hits a clinical side foot finish with power, which was pretty much unstoppable. And I just wrote down, Chelsea are going to score lots of goals. Now, the types of attacks that this Chelsea front line generated, not just in this one goal, but for the period of time when all 4 of those front attacking options of Madueke on the right, João Felix playing the 10, Pedro Neto out on the left wing, and Cole Palmer up front, was just, it looked incredibly dangerous. It was very free-flowing. There was lots of passing options, tons of movement, and the attackers were all playing each other in quickly and without hesitation, making it an absolute nightmare to defend against. Now, in the 83rd minute, Cole Palmer did go off for Nkunku. João Felix stayed playing in the 10 and Nkunku went to play up front. Now, if you have been following along in the channel, my thoughts around Nkunku are that his best position that I have seen him play is actually in the 10. However, it has become very clear to me that Maresca does not at all see Nkunku as a 10 based on his team selection, his positioning of Nkunku, and when he is making substitutions, who is going where on the pitch. And this is just further confirmation that Maresca does not see Nkunku as a viable 10 candidate. And with the purchase of João Felix and him moving into the 10, we can kind of see why why João Felix was bought, and also that Nkunku isn't going to be the 10 moving forward. So I have a predicted lineup for the Crystal Palace match coming up this weekend. I think it's going to be, this will be the formation out of position. It'll be Sanchez in goal, Gusto right back, Fofana and Cole the centre backs, and Cucurella the left back. Gusto and Cucurella have been playing outstanding. Like, they are doing really, really well in that Chelsea backline at the moment. The 2 CDMs are likely going to be Caicedo and Enzo. I think Madueke will be on the right. Palmer will start in the 10, and Pedro Neto, I think, will be given his first start of the season out at left wing. And I think Jackson is going to continue, at least for this game, playing up front in that number 9. Now, the reason I haven't put João Felix into this starting lineup is that he did only get 22 minutes against Wolves, but he hasn't actually played at all this year, apart from a 15-minute appearance in the quarterfinals in early July. So that's almost 2 months ago now. Prior to that was a 90-minute run out at the Euros in late June. And then before that was just a very long list of 20-odd minute performances with, I think there was 2 45-minute runouts going back, I think it was about 10 weeks for the latest games from the 23-24 season at Barcelona. So his match fitness won't at all be there. So I do suspect it'll be at least another few appearances off the bench for João Felix. And so we probably cannot invest in him yet. However, I do think Pedro Neto is going to start, and I think he is going to nail down that left wing spot off Mudryk, who is his main competition out there. But I think long term that spot is probably going to become Neto's. He is only down at 6.5 million and could be, I mean, he was a great player at Wolves, but you put him into a Chelsea team with the players that Chelsea do have around him, and I think he is going to flourish. Madueke, who had actually dropped to 6.4 million after game week 1, heading into the Wolves fixture, which clearly would have been incredibly frustrating for all those managers who did ditch him after game week 1 to only see him start and score a hat-trick in game week 2. But Madueke has already risen back to 6.5 million in swift order. So those lucky few who scooped him up for 6.4 million while ditching Nkunku before he dropped from 6.5 million are already up 0.2 mil on the deal. And I actually think this is a pretty savvy transfer. One of my mates, Ralphie, actually made this exact play, catching the 0.2 on the deal. And I do think that Madueke has got a real chance to nail down the spot under Maresca. And his finishing at Wolves was pure quality. For his hat-trick, he only hit strong side-footed shots, low and hard, and 5 of his 6 shots in the match were all on target and all hit well, with the other 2 shots forcing saves from Jose Sa in net. Now I know Madueke and Pedro Neto are both listed at 6.5 million, which is above Nkunku's current price tag of 6.4 million. And not many people are going to have the money in the bank in order to make that move in one transfer. So you will have to decide your own course of action on how you bring these lads in if you think that they are worth it. Now that might involve using 2 free transfers if you have them, taking a hit this week, or delaying it by a week to do it for free across the international break. But what has really turned my head at Chelsea is my favourite player in the league, that being Cole Palmer. Now, if you caught my preseason content, you'll know that when the prices came out, I thought that Cole Palmer was underpriced at 10.5 million. I actually put a price tag on him of about 11.5 million. But if Cole Palmer is going to end up playing the 9, then he is going to be way underpriced. So when João Felix came on for Jackson, he went straight into the cam position, pushing Palmer up front. And so there was only a brief 14-minute period with the front line of Madueke, João Felix, Neto, and Palmer up top, with Enzo joining into the attack. So what happens is Gusto comes out of right back, slips in to beside Caicedo, then Enzo moves forward to go up alongside João Felix to create the 2 10s, and that left Cole Palmer up front running around causing all sorts of havoc. And for these 14 minutes, Chelsea looked absolutely devastating. Now, my prediction is that the eventual first team will be the following once everyone is up to match fitness. Now, I think the backline will be identical, same keeper. Caicedo and Enzo are probably the two preferred CDMs. But I think long-term, the front line is going to be Madueke on the right, João Felix in the cam, Neto at left wing, and Cole Palmer playing up front in front of Jackson. Now, an alternative, I do not see how Maresca fits in both Palmer and João Felix in the 2 10s unless Madueke is dropped. Palmer plays on the right in his place with Jackson playing up front, and then Gusto, instead of stepping into that CDM position next to Caicedo, he would come right up to right wing, making Palmer and João Felix as the two dual cams. But I am really I'm starting to think that the long-term plan for replacing Jackson up front, based on what happened last season, is probably to put Cole Palmer up there instead. Now, in terms of Nkunku replacements that are non-Chelsea, I'm just going to go through these really quickly. There's a whole bunch of other assets in the bracket that you could look at. They are all over 6.4 million though, so you still have the same set of problems. In the list, you've probably got players like Garnacho. He comes with some risk of rotation between Rashford and Ahmad. Morgan Gibbs-White, I don't see a very high ceiling for him. Bailey at Aston Villa, if he can secure the minutes. Szoboszlai at Liverpool looks like he is still playing in the cam, and they have very good fixtures, so he's pretty nailed on and looks like he might thrive. Or then there's someone like potentially Savino or Savio. I'm not entirely sure on the pronunciation there or what he prefers, but he is also a minutes concern. But I do not think that any of these players are going to keep pace with the Chelsea attackers over this next run of 5 fixtures, apart from maybe Bailey and Savino if they get consistent minutes. Now, the reason I'm not going into all of these options is most of these are the more safe options, apart from players like Savino and maybe to a certain extent Bailey. And I'm pretty sure all the other content creators will cover them in depth, as they will be recommending the safer picks as opposed to investing in the Chelsea team. But that is my very quick roundup of Nkunku replacements, which then leads me into the issues that are already cropping up in my team. So this part of the video is now going to be specifically about my team and potential moves. So if you're not at all interested in that, feel free to switch off. So I am looking to potentially take a hit this week, but I'm also flirting with the idea of playing my wildcard. Now, to quickly summarize the issues that I have, Crystal Palace don't look to be as defensively sound early on, and I'm currently doubled up on them in defense with a growing need to divest. I think Anderson's sale off to Fulham is going to have a big effect. It probably already has. There's uncertainty there. There's already been links for Gahey potentially moving elsewhere as well. And I just do not see Crystal Palace being very good over the next 3 fixtures. I think they definitely concede to Chelsea, probably 2+ goals to be fair. Man United will probably score against them. That Leicester game looks alright, but again, I think Leicester will have a good chance at scoring against them too. So I do have the issues of my dual Crystal Palace lads. I'm also feeling very naked without any Arsenal defence. And even though they definitely should have conceded against Villa, Arsenal do just seem to find a way to keep clean sheets, and they do have one of the best defences in the league. And I thought the fixtures at the start of the season were enough to put me off their defenders, but I'm really starting to re-look at that decision. I thought Crystal Palace would be a lot more defensively sound and they would keep pace, but I do not think that is going to be the case moving forward. I'm also going to need some money to deal with Lewis Hall if he doesn't start this weekend. And I may need to also look at Eze if he blanks again against Chelsea, as he'll almost certainly drop in value. I also have Barco on the bench, who will need to be dealt with on an eventual wildcard. So I am basically just crossing my fingers here that he doesn't drop in value before I do eventually pull my wildcard. Now, the rest of the team I am pretty happy with, though. I mean, I could adjust Slicker for someone like Areola if he's still down at 4 million. I still think Isak is good, even though he hasn't returned in the first two. I have no plans to sell Gordon. I have no plans to sell Jota, Haaland, João Pedro, or even Gvardiol. So there is a core of my team that I'm happy with. I mean, of course, I'm also very happy with Salah and how he has returned at this point so far. However, Isak, I think over the next 3 to 4 game weeks, I am probably going to want to get rid of, and I am probably going to want to put that money back into midfield, as I do see way more options in midfield and way more value options in midfield that could become pretty big across the coming weeks. So the hit that I am considering this week is to sell Salah in order to buy Cole Palmer and get 2 million out of the deal. Now, I don't really want to sell Salah, but he is the only way that I can get, well, the only easy way that I can get to Cole Palmer, who I think I'm really going to want, especially if he's playing up in that number 9. But even if he isn't playing in that number 9, he just makes that team tick, and he is going to be involved in a lot. I think he is probably about a 12.5 million asset, and so Palmer for Salah, same sort of set of fixtures as well, but I do get 2 million back by going with Cole Palmer. I am then looking to take 1 million of that 2 million and invest it back into the defense in order to purchase an Arsenal asset. And as weird as it does sound to consider taking a hit for a goalkeeper, I think I'm leaning towards selling Henderson to Raya, as it's the cheapest and safest way into the Arsenal backline. So the reason I went with Gvardiol for game week 1 was I think Gabriel and Saliba do have more competition this season, and they will get rotated, especially around Arteta's comments where he was actually quite unhappy that he had to play someone like Saliba in every single Premier League fixture last season. This is why I went with Gvardiol, and I do not really fancy selling Gvardiol to one of those Gabriel or Saliba options, and I still think there's a pretty severe risk of rotation. Well, not severe, there's enough risk of rotation in the Arsenal backline that I think I would just go to Raya as a set and forget goalkeeper. Now, Raya could pay me back immediately by keeping a clean sheet against Brighton this weekend. And if that does happen, it will earn me 1 transfer ahead if it does come to fruition when in selling Cole Palmer and, selling Salah, buying Cole Palmer and Raya. I think Chelsea are going to score a few goals against Palace. So buying Cole Palmer, I could actually be buying into a haul here. And I do see a very strong possibility of Henderson getting either a 0-pointer or a 1-pointer this week. However, Salah does have United away, and I am really worried about United's backline at the moment. So Salah alone could definitely ruin this move single-handedly. But what is pushing me into this hit is that Arsenal's set of upcoming fixtures over the next 3. So we've got Brighton at home, Tottenham away, and Man City away. That's pretty tough after this game week. And so if I do not buy in, so if I just went Salah to Palmer this week and then look to bring in Raya next week for free, if Raya had have kept a clean sheet against Brighton, I should have just done that move and been one transfer up. And buying Raya just before Tottenham away and Man City away might put me off until game week 6, meaning I would actually be without Arsenal cover for the next 3 game weeks. And Arsenal could definitely keep clean sheets in all of these matches. I mean, I know Man City is super tough, but that was actually a very nervy affair last season, as it is a very crucial match for both of those teams. And I think Arsenal could definitely keep a clean sheet against Tottenham as well. I mean, odds on that they do concede in both those matches, but they could also just as easily keep clean sheets. And so, because of that upcoming fixture run and the fact that the international break is coming between game week 3 and 4, meaning I would not be able to make any of the, even if I bank the transfer and roll until the international break, I would have to wait until the end of the international break before making my moves. And that's actually going to cost me quite a bit of value in my team as well. So that is why I am considering taking a hit this week. Now, I think I can probably get away with just a hit this week. I could probably also get away with just rolling the transfer as well. But if Lewis Hall doesn't turn up again this game week, against Tottenham at home, and if Palace get battered by Chelsea at the weekend, which I think they actually have a strong possibility of happening given they've been conceding quite a few and Chelsea just look like they're going to attack throughout the entire 90 minutes of the match, I will still have Lewis Hall, Munoz, and probably Eze to deal with, not to mention Barco on the bench as well, who is eventually going to cost me a transfer if I do not deal with him on a wild card. And so I am also seriously considering pulling a wild card in game week 3. Now, as I mentioned, there's a lot of players in the squad that I would still hold on to. The only adjustments I think that I would additionally make is I would probably sell Isak and put that money into midfield somehow or some way. So if I just take a hit this week and Hall doesn't turn up and Crystal Palace get battered, that basically would be the worst case scenario where it all turns tits up. And I will still have a few transfers to deal with these players, which will have me playing catch up over the next 3 game weeks or so, which might also induce some hits coming across the coming game weeks. And if that is what happens this weekend, I'm seriously thinking that I will probably take a hit or 2 in the next 3 game weeks, including the hit that I am considering this game week. That's 2 to 3 hits, and I'm kind of wondering, maybe I just pull the wild card and deal with all the issues at once. Now, it is super early in the season. This transfer window is still open, which makes playing the wild card that much more risky. And I definitely haven't settled on where I am heading right now, but these are my current thoughts as it is late Wednesday evening, a few days out from the game week 3 deadline. All right, well, that wraps up this video. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a comment to tell us what you think. And to those of you who did comment on the last video, I'll be sitting down tonight to respond to some of those comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all again next time.